Carl and Brendan here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And it's track by track time as making their debut. And the first full Queen album I've listened to, I believe, I just said it's Queen. And it's The Game, their 8th studio album, which was a real shocker to me because, look, I don't know Queen as well as I think I do. I guess I just know the hits. And I know the songs that you've heard a million times over and over again. So I would have, if you'd said to me how many albums that Queen have, I'd have gone 3, 4. So I say
3 and 42 greatest hits collections.
Yeah, exactly that, right? Just like where it's the same things pumped out over and over again. Maybe a live one here and there and stuff like that. So this was a real surprise to see 8. And it was released on the 30th of June, 1980 by EMI Records in the UK and by Elektra Records in the US. No surprise, it's Queen. Critical commercial success, this album. #1 in the US and became their best-selling studio album in the US with 4 million copies sold to date. Time with the sales for News of the World. So yeah, I mean, it was Queen, 1980. Of course it was going to be. I looked at the track listing and I thought, yeah, I recognize a couple. Well, I mean, one obviously, or two, obviously. But there was a few, and I was like, I know I've never heard this track, or if I have, I don't remember it. And in the case of one, I hadn't heard in such a long time that it was such a stupid nostalgia kick. But this was your choice. Why did you choose this?
Why? Looking for something classic, I guess. I'm aware as well that I don't think we've covered Queen, and you know, obviously Queen is on the rock side of things. I'm also in the exact same boat as you, as in, like, I don't think I've ever listened to a full Queen album. You know, if I had, it probably was a greatest hits collection.
Yeah.
You know, I certainly didn't choose this knowing it was the 8th album when I first chose this. I thought, like, do you know what? We ain't covered Queen. Let's choose a Queen album. And I looked it up, and then The Game was, like you just said, was a critical commercial success. And I was like, all right, we'll go for that. I also thought it was kind of like, I was quite intrigued to do it, to be honest with you, as well, because the truth is, like, I think in day-to-day life, even though it intrigues me, I still probably wouldn't have bothered just sticking a Queen album on just to hear the tracks I didn't know.
Yeah.
So this was like a kind of opportunity to do that. As we know from albums we listen to in all styles of music, often the singles aren't always the one that sort of stick with you the longest. Like, you know, not always. You know, so, and it's strange. It's all strange. I was so surprised. I don't know why. I think maybe Queen almost had like phantom sort of status in my head sometimes. Like the fact that it was the 8th album by 1980, that surprised me. You know, the 8th album definitely, but also the fact that 8 were out by 1980. I was like, I don't know why. My dates must have been all wrong, but I was thinking like they were the late 70s, 80s band. You know, that maybe there was an album or two in the 70s, but how wrong I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was interested in doing that. I'm the same as you. There was 2 songs I knew 100%. There's one I knew when it played, but I didn't recognize it by name. And a few bits like that. But you know, for the most part, I was just like, yeah, let's see the other stuff, man. I guess the thing with Queen is, like, because they got so many hits, you know, that it's not like a band that, you know, they got 3 or 4 hits, you know, so you know there's a load of other stuff, man. They got so many hits that they can feel like double album compilations. And you might feel like you've heard like so much Queen. Like, I'm talking to somebody about it, like I was saying, like, if somebody said to me, like, list 20 Queen songs, I reckon I could do it pretty easily.
Yeah, which is not something you can often say about a lot of bands.
You know, so yeah, so then I guess, yeah, just don't really think about what's around that. But yeah, there you go. So that's the reason. Just why not, more than anything else.
I think, like I said, I think we're going to definitely both have the same tracks that we both knew immediately, kind of thing. Be interesting though, you said as well there was one you knew but you didn't know by name, and I wonder if it was the same one that I kind of mentioned as well. But yeah, there are, like I said, there are other stuff on this, so I guess that's where the most interesting conversations are going to come from. So let's get started with Play the Game. This is the opening track. And for me, it's an interesting opening. The melodrama of the vocals, the melody gets a little rockier as it develops. It is surprisingly simple, heavy on the keys, and has a sweetness that works for me. It's not exactly the most exciting of openers, but I like it because of the vocals, and there is some cool harmonization, that Queen harmonization.
Almost like, feel like just going, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like, you know. But this was the one I mentioned that actually I didn't recognize the name of this at all. But when it started playing, I felt like I recognized some of the song.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's amazingly unmistakably Queen, like in
Hmm.
sound and that. Like the minute you hear a note on Brian May's guitar or a single like word of a lyric, you know, it's like Queen. Like it's
Yep.
so recognizable, isn't it? And it does have that as well. You know, nice all the things I like about Queen. It's a bit cheesy, it's a bit quirky. Song structures aren't exactly standard. You know, they don't kind of just go, you know, verse, chorus,
Uh-huh.
end. Um, Harmonies are great. Nice little solo, nice combination in the solo with the piano as well. So you know, it's unmistakably Queen, and it's a nice song.
Unmistakably Queen. Yes, because yeah, variety is something that does actually work quite nicely with Queen, and you kind of did get a bit of it on this album, and I think you kind of hit it now with the second track, Dragon Attack. Never heard of this one. Funky and groovy. This has some wicked bass hooks, some real rock heaviness, and Freddie swagger that is so enjoyable. This is one of those tracks that I just found super exciting and super interesting because it was like, well, it's Queen, and I know Queen, but I don't know this. And that's weird.
Yeah, yeah. I thought this song was really cool.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was very odd, in a good way, like interesting. You know, lots of nice bass lines, catchy drum beats. It's quite smooth. I definitely didn't know it at all, like not even remotely, like not a single part of it. You know, it's got a lot of things I like that people still do today, you know, like drop all the guitars out and just have the bass and drums with Freddie singing over the top of it. Kind of uses repetitive bass line throughout. Lots of little weird moments like little drum solos and stuff like that. So kind of feels a bit like a really cool jamming session at times, I thought, but in a good way. I just thought it was a really, really cool song.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're in agreement on that one. It was a nice, it was a nice early surprise for when you're not knowing what's coming up, particularly as you know you talked about repetitive bass. I mean, it's another one bites the dust. Look, it's just been so overplayed that any chance of me enjoying it is well and truly gone now. I know that, and I can admire how cool the bass is and how radio perfect it is. I get all of that. I understand it, but I just want to ignore it all though. I don't, it's no fault of Queen. They wrote a massive hit and it's been used in just about everything since. I'm glad they made a ton of money from it, presumably. That's it. I don't want to hear this song ever again in my life. Of the Queen hits, the ones that are big, it's probably one of my least favorite anyway. So yeah, I basically got about a minute into this and went, nope, I don't need it. I know it. Boom, skip. I'm not going to do any more of it.
Me too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
obviously.
obviously so recognizable, man. And yeah, like you said, heard it a billion times. I do like the song. I think it's a very cool song.
Mhm.
I didn't listen to it again. That's the truth on the album. I didn't need to. I even now I feel like I know it note for note, you know. So I was like, yeah. The only thing I added was just like, you know, despite all those feelings now about it, like I just imagine how cool it must have been when you went and bought this album and heard that for the first time. That must have been like something else. I get now,
Yeah.
like 30, 40 years later, it's like, yeah, no, fuck that song.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like
yeah.
those lucky buggers who bought this album in on cassette or whatever, you know, at the local cassette shop, whatever they call cassette store, and heard that for the first time. So it's a well written song, and it is. It's just like, yeah, it's like a lot of the hits. You know, there's a lot of Queen hits, and honestly, like I like a lot of them and that. But I think on any album I would have chosen, there would have been a song or two that I probably would have felt like I didn't even need to listen to again.
Yeah.
I'd heard it enough.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, then we got Need Your Loving Tonight. It's nice and upbeat. The pop sensibilities, because, you know, Queen are a rock band, but they are a pop band in the same vein too. And this is quite strong in this one for me. But it's catchy and energetic. It's an easy track you could probably dance along to at a club. If, you know, a DJ was like, I'm going to put Queen on, but I don't want to put the obvious Queen on, he might go for this one, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's another one I didn't know. Thought it was pretty decent. It's got a nice steady rhythm to it. Of course, the vocals are good. Um, thing about albums these days is always like so much love and loving and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always the thing. I need your
God.
loving tonight. It's like, oh, for Christ's sake.
Yep.
You guys were fucking eager back in the day, man. That's why we had a baby boom, isn't it? But yeah, no, it's got all the cool, nice, like Queen elements to it. It's got a nice tempo as well. It's got some nice harmonies, a strong solo. So yeah, it's a decent song.
Then the other one that I knew before I hit play, it's Crazy Little Thing Called Love. It's got finger snapping melody, and I don't know if it's just me, but it seems to pay tribute to Elvis. I get a little bit of that from it. But up to this point, I think it's so different to everything I heard so far. There's a touch of country twang to it, all kinds of funk. I've heard it a lot. I don't really want to hear it again, but I got nothing really. I got no complaints with this one. I got nothing bad to say.
Yeah, same again. I obviously know it well as well. Never really put it down as one of my favorite Queen songs. You know, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not like nice and well sung. And I get what you're saying with the Elvis thing. It's like some of the things he does with his vocals in particular.
That's it.
It gets quite low. You know, so it's got a lot of cool stuff, a nice little kind of mid-tempo beat in that, but you know, it hasn't changed the fact that, you know, it's a song that I think is decent enough, but I don't particularly love.
Yeah, I'll admit I was kind of lost on the album at this point, because bear in mind, you know, other than being impressed by Dragon Attack, I've had Another One Bites the Dust, Need Your Loving Tonight, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and nothing wrong with any of these, but I'm just like, oh, damn, I was hoping to be a bit more like, oh, wow. Thankfully, that actually happens now for me. Rocket, in brackets, Prime Jive. This has such an epic introduction. I love the melody and think it's a great showcase of Freddie's vocal power. Then it kicks in, and it is just as good. A super eccentric and electrifying listen. A track that sounds like the band are having as much fun playing it, making it, as I am listening to it. I love the synthy touches, proper soul in this one. This was brilliant. This was like oh my God, how have I never heard this track before?
Yeah, and I agree. I thought it was fantastic. The same things, really, to be honest. I like the vocals at start. I like the melody. I like the fact that you know, it's not just Freddie singing; they have Taylor singing on it as well.
Yep.
Something that I didn't realize whether Queen did a lot or they do it just on this album. I'm assuming they did it a lot. But when I was looking at this album, to get some like sort of, you know, facts and details and shit like that on Wikipedia, it was, and you know, at the bottom it says like who's on what instrument on what song. The way they, like, genuinely, it's like the drummer is the guitarist on some songs, he's playing piano on some songs, singing on some songs. You got Brian May, who's playing drums on one song, singing on another, playing piano on another. Freddie's playing acoustic guitar in one, doing the synthesizer on this track. And it's like they just, oh, I don't want to do drums this time. Hey, you do the drums. Like,
yeah. It's only a simple beat
cool.
anyway.
Yeah. I was like, that's kind of cool, really, isn't it? You know, the fact that they all have ideas, so they just mix and match the instruments they're going to play in this song based on whoever's idea it is. But, you know, in this one, like, you know, like I said, everything that you said again, I kind of like the same as with Dragon Attack. I felt like this was just like a really successful jam session. You know, it just had a load of cool things that, like you said, it sounds like they're having a great time. Lots of cool lead guitar stuff, nice rhythm, synth I liked as well in it. Yeah, so it was surprising. Thought it was phenomenal. I actually thought this would have made a wicked single.
Yeah,
to be honest, but
yeah, big fan of it too. It's interesting that I said you kind of highlighted the sort of jam thing there, because I very much get a jam feel from Don't Try Suicide. But this is a track I don't actually like. The off-kilter rhythm, heavy bass drums, and melody are just okay. And then you have the lyrics, which I just find quite stupid. I really struggle to get in this track, and a lot of the Queen tropes felt quite forced on this, such as the vocal harmonies and guitar solo. I felt like they were like, oh, we need to add, particularly guitar solo. I was like, oh, did you feel like you needed to because Queen has guitar solos constantly? You're like, oh, we need something in here. Yeah, I just didn't really connect with this.
I liked it in a way, right? As in, I thought, you know, some of the stuff at the beginning, for example, the bass line and the clapping and that, I was like, oh, that's quite Queen. That's what I would expect.
Yeah.
I thought the song title was generally something you could take as good advice. I thought the idea, I don't know what they were aiming to get from it, right? The point of it doesn't really come across, but like the fact that it was singing what are essentially quite somber, morose lyrics, but in a really upbeat tempo. You know, don't try suicide. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's almost like an oddity, right? You know, you're singing a song about not committing suicide because people don't even care if you do, while sort of like in a really jovial way with clapping and stuff like that. So I found the whole thing to be like really odd. I also thought it was quite interesting that, like, I think in terms of the album credits, this is one of only 2 songs that are listed as written by Freddie,
Interesting.
like lyrically. So I don't know if it was maybe like an insight into Freddie's mental state after 8 albums and, you know, that sort of stuff. We know that as well from I don't know anything for a fact, but from like the Freddie Mercury movie and stuff like that, you know, that he struggled with mental health sort of things, and if it was like a kind of thing like that. But anyway, look, I was probably reading more into it than I think you were, because of the fact that I was like, oh, this is written by Freddie, and it's quite odd, and the lyrics are quite weird, and but the thing is, like, for all of the stuff that I thought was interesting about it, I did just find the song to be really, really weird.
Yeah.
I didn't find it to be particularly fun to listen to or anything. I thought it was quirky, kind of intriguing a little bit, the sort of thing you might want to break down with a therapist, not particularly great just to listen to as a song.
Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, maybe it's because I said I couldn't. I just didn't like it. That I didn't even really bother going any. It was like when it ended, I had no interest in going to read up about it. I was like, nope, I'm just going to move straight on.
Yeah.
Next one then, Sail Away, Sweet Sister. Look, this one immediately I looked at and thought, this reads like a dramatic ballad. So it's no surprise that that is exactly what it is. That being said, don't mind this one. It takes a moment to get going, but when it does, I'm into it. The only thing I'd actually say is, weirdly, I find the vocals are a little off here. Just a little bit odd. Just not, I don't know if it's the mix or it's the recording or whatever, but something's not right.
I may address this in my comment. Remember, I was talking about people who mix around on songs.
Yeah.
So the predominant vocalist on this song is Brian May.
Fuck. That's, I mean, I knew it wasn't Freddie, but like, it was like,
Mm.
something's not right here.
I think near the end of it, Freddie kind of comes in and adds like a second layer of vocals. So it's backing vocals to Brian May singing.
No Brian, no vocals.
I liked his vocals. I actually thought he had a really good voice, but like, it's different vocals. Different people like different things. I thought it was good. I guess maybe if you're going in expecting Freddie, and then that's, you know, like it you know, because I knew, because I'd read all the stuff, I knew who was going to be singing on the song when it played. So I was listening to hear how Brian sounded rather than, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, my understanding of Queen, from a completely not proper fan in the sense, is that Freddie sung and that the band obviously all could sing, but it was often mainly in harmonization.
Yeah, and also, you know, even in that stuff, like a lot of what I believed was it was mainly the drummer who did a lot of the backing singing. Yeah. But, you know, as a song anyway, I think it's really nice. I do like it a lot. I think the melodies are gorgeous. I like Brian's vocals. I also then really enjoyed when Freddie came in, and then you got that kind of dual angle on it. So I just thought, you know, it's got a lovely solo in it. It's just, I thought it was a really, really nice song.
It is a nice song, though. I do agree with you. Coming soon, the penultimate track. This is just some good old-fashioned Queen foot tapping and feel-good rock groove. It's a fun track where the harmonization is proper on point and the guitar sounds great. Yeah, this felt singly. Like, I'd never heard of it before but it was very much Queen single. Like, if it played on the radio, you'd be like, oh yeah, that was a good song. That was it.
Yeah, and I was kind of, you know, it's also nice, the kind of the way they flow in the album, you know, they did like a kind of ballad beforehand, and obviously it ends similarly. So it was nice to have a bit of like energy and, you know, a pick back up in the middle of that. Excuse me. So yeah, like I liked it. I thought it was musically cool. I like the sound of the drums. I like the way the guitars pop in and out. Good vocals, good solo. Yeah, it's a catchy song. I like it.
Which brings us to Save Me, the finale. So I said at the start, there was a track that I didn't recognize the name, but when it started, I did recognize it, and it was this. But it had been a very, very long time since I've heard it. And I think this is excellent. The emotion and melody, Freddie's vocals alternating between fragility and power. Then you have what is a really, really strong chorus. It's a banger. One hell of an excellent ending.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't feel like I recognized much of it at all,
Mm.
you know. So yeah, this one I feel like was new to me.
Oh, cool.
Thought I was really happy, you know, his piano and Freddie. Sounds like a good combination straight off, doesn't it? The vocals are just gorgeous in the verse, really smooth, and then I really enjoy the chorus, where it brings it back a little bit of the emphasis on the drums and guitars. Lots of those Queen tropes in this one, you know, the harmonizing, like all the things you want, really, to be honest with you. But I think it's a wonderful track. I think it's quite beautiful, and it's a really good album closer as well. You know, I thought it was yeah, it left me wanting to re-listen to it, you know. So not the album, just that song.
Oh, yeah, that song, yeah. But overall, I think we've been pretty much in tune across the whole thing. Same sort of criticisms for the most part, same sort of things we agree on. Which means I suspect we might have quite close in this top 3 tracks of it. So do you want to go first?
Cool. So in no particular order, Save Me, Rocket, Prime Jive, and Dragon Attack.
Yeah, we're exactly the same. Yeah, I've highlighted Dragon Attack, Rocket Prime Jive, Save Me, exactly the same 3. I find that, you know, it's amusing almost the fact that we both would choose 2 tracks that we'd never heard before and we thought were the better ones. But that's, of course, you know, popularity, I know all Mites of Dust wins hands down, but that's not how we feel. That's not what these are our recommendations to check out. If you like us and you've never really listened to a Queen album or the game specifically in full, and you're not too sure about it, maybe just pick one of these out. I guess pick Rocket Prime Jive for an example of just something maybe you've never really heard before. But if you're a super Queen fan, you know all this shit anyway. You're sitting there going, what the hell are these idiots talking about? That was everybody knows that song.
Except for us.
Yes. That's the game by Queen. You got any thoughts on it? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?